So this was definitely a bit interesting. We've been talking about the infrastructure negotiations and the Build Back Better plan, and whether or not the squad in particular, but progressives at large and the Congress and the Senate should vote for this bill. Whether or not they should kill it in protest or go along with it. And there's been a lot of interesting discussion surrounding this whole debate. But someone actually weighed in particular. I thought this was really interesting. Nina Turner came out here with a pretty interesting tweet that I have to say is a good take. Nina Turner says, "What if progressives leverage their vote in exchange for executive action on student debt?" Hey, there's an idea. Now, like we've been talking about, there's really no reason for progressives to vote for this absolutely gutted bill, which has been gutted at the whims of Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, who are totally corrupt. So there's no reason they should support it. But if it's going to pass anyway, and if they are going to support it anyway, then they might as well leverage that vote in exchange for something. And I think Nina's right on the money here when she says, why not do it for executive action on student debt? Something that Joe Biden could do with the stroke of his pen today. He could have done it yesterday. He could do it tomorrow. So yeah, if they're going to vote yes on this, this is the only reason why they should.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there, right? I want to give full fucking disclosure that I am a person that is saddled with massive student debt. So I do not come from this as a neutral party. I would benefit tremendously if they canceled student debt, as would a lot of people who are my age. This does come down to a complicated issue where it's like so much has been gutted for people who don't have student debt from this bill that, you know, this is an interesting exchange in the sense that it doesn't benefit every American, which I do think is something that we have to reckon with. I don't want to just run full bore into this like I am somebody who benefits from this. I understand that, you know, maybe you're a struggling person who didn't go to college, who knew, you know, you couldn't afford it, you didn't take out this debt, and you're still really struggling and you need the government to really help you. I understand how that could feel like a lousy exchange. Like they add this caveat after, you know, you were a 58-year-old that fucking, you know, needed a Medicare expansion and didn't get it, but now they're cutting the fucking bill. So I just want to acknowledge that I feel like those feelings are valid. But that being said, this is a way better decision than doing nothing, which is exactly what they're about to do, right? So I just wanted to like set up that caveat because I understand that that's a rational impulse, that if people feel that way, that I would listen to that debate and you know, listen to what other things you think might be better in exchange than canceling student debt, something else that could be done by executive order, perhaps the full legalization of marijuana and the stripping removal of everybody's criminal record. That would help a different kind of community. I would be open to, you know, exchanges like that. But the idea being that they should get something that he can do from executive order that will benefit people, that should be a no fucking brainer. But I also am sympathetic to the argument that, you know, they should really just fucking try and tank his presidency because he's a no good piece of shit. And this is his last opportunity to pass anything. And if I'm Bernie Sanders, I'm telling him the hell with him. I'm burning this fucking bitch down. But of course, that's not going to happen. And since we do live in reality, you know, this isn't a bad idea.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think that, you know, I would probably go one step further than Nina and say that if they're going to vote for this bill, then they should not only demand executive action on student debt, but also the removal of cannabis from the Schedule 1 substance list and the pardoning of all nonviolent drug offenders in the country. Because I think that just has to come along with the federal legalization of cannabis, is the, you know, forgiving of all of the people that are currently serving time or in the carceral system or justice system in general for nonviolent drug offenses. So, yeah, I would go one step further than that. And also, you know, just to discuss a little bit what you were saying about how canceling student loan debt wouldn't necessarily affect everyone in the country. I do think it's a little bit more nuanced than that, because if you think about the amount of people, especially in our generation, that are saddled with student debt, I think that if you forgave all of that debt and liberated that entire generation of people, that would actually be a massive boon to the economy. You know, think about all those people now having so much more money to go out and spend on things that they need. You know, that would help a lot of small businesses. That would help the economy in general. And it would kind of recenter the playing field in that sense, again, by liberating that generation of student debt loan holders. So, yeah, I think that, you know, it's more than just like, oh, here's a personal forgiveness. No, it actually would help the economy. It would help the country in general. And that's something that's not talked about enough. So yeah, it's very important that student debt is forgiven. It really is a huge burden for a massive amount of people in this country. But yeah, that being said, this bill is still trash, and it would suck to have to vote for it either way. Again, but if they are going to vote for it, this is the only conditions under which they should, in my opinion.
Yeah, And I mean, God, we had Jordan Cheriton on, and that's a guy who's not one that's gonna, he gives them the benefit of the doubt, progressive leadership, the benefit of the doubt more than anybody I know, really. And even he was like, oh, they're gonna vote for it. They're gonna vote for it. They're gonna fold for this shit, even though it's terrible, even though they should, and even though it's pathetic, they're gonna fold for it. So, that's where we're at with progressive leadership. Even, and we're big fans of Jordan. This isn't a slight at him. We just have a disagreement on, the squad up until this point. He agreed and even led the tirade against them when we were interviewing, saying, yeah, this is pathetic, this is a bad move, this is going to be a stain on Bernie Sanders' legacy if he votes for this bill. And then still was like, that these people have let us down so much, I don't see how they decide to grow a spine now. So that's kind of the predicament that we're in. So that being said, if they were going to hold the line for fucking anything, it would be, I guess, nominally better than them holding the line for nothing. So of course they should do it, but it's all so pathetic, man. They fucking cheapened this bill so much that it all just feels like it's bullshit at this point, no matter what they do. So yeah, $10,000 off of my student loans, sure. $25,000 off my student loans, that would be fucking amazing. But it doesn't change the fact that the bill was dog shit and that they shouldn't have ever let them negotiate against themselves like this.
Yeah, 100%. And if you guys remember the whole force the vote episode that went down, this suggestion by Nina Turner is somewhat reminiscent of it, because of course she's basically asking them to, withhold their vote, use their leverage in exchange for a policy. In the case of force the vote, it was withholding their vote on Nancy Pelosi to get a vote for Medicare for all. In this instance, it would be leveraging your vote for the bill in exchange for action on student debt. So some people have pointed that out, including, of course, Jimmy Dore, who came up with the force the vote idea. And he responds to this tweet just with hashtag force the vote. So, I don't really know if he's thinks this is a good idea or not. But I guess he definitely thinks it's pretty funny, given that Nina Turner wasn't necessarily beating the drum for force the vote when Nancy Pelosi was up for re-election. She basically stayed silent on the issue, and when asked about it,
we have to have all the tools in our tool belt.
Yeah, she said, like, yeah, we got to use all the tools in our tool belt. But it was pretty much a mealy-mouthed answer, a non-answer, a politician answer. And that gets to, kind of a bigger question here when it comes to Nina Turner in general, because, when it comes to Nina Turner, she's definitely better than your average Democrat. I think that's obvious. If you guys saw her being a surrogate for Bernie Sanders, I'm sure you were very inspired. It was, she's a fantastic speaker, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think it's fair to say, as we observed on this podcast, that when she decided to actually get into politics herself and run for office herself, as she did in Ohio, we definitely saw a little bit of a different Nina Turner after that. She toned down a lot. It was like she went from, 11 to like 3, like straight up, out there on the trail, stumping for Bernie Sanders. This lady was on fire. She was absolutely one of the best speakers I'd ever seen. Then turn around a couple months, she's running for office herself, and it seems like she wasn't even really, advocating for herself with the same kind of passion and confidence that she was for Bernie Sanders. And it felt really weird to me and a little bit disappointing, especially because before then it seemed like she was, a third party advocate. It seemed like she really saw through the bullshit and was one of the most, unrestrained and just fiery truth tellers on the whole Bernie Sanders team. So yeah, I thought it was a little bit disappointing to see Nina Turner's pivot, but hopefully maybe this is a signal that she's going to be back on some of her old shit and, back to really asking the most out of elected officials and asking that they use their leverage where they can. So again, this is definitely a good idea, but we'll see if it actually happens. I kind of doubt it, just given the track record of progressives in Congress and their refusal to actually use their leverage when they can. But we'll see.